Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. This is actually our 7th one already from scientificlocal.org.
Wow, 7th.
I know, right? It's amazing.
That's great.
And if you were with us last time, you'll remember we got to chat with the founder, the person behind it all. And
it's more project.
It's really cool, yeah. So a quick reminder to everyone, stay tuned for the website launch. It's coming soon, we promise. But for today, we are switching gears a little bit. We're going to be exploring something that's both ancient and super relevant.
Okay.
Traditional knowledge.
Yeah.
And how it all ties into managing our environment.
It's fascinating, right?
It is.
I mean, the different ways that all these different cultures all over the world have figured out how to understand and then care for their environment.
Totally.
It's amazing.
So you hear traditional knowledge and you might think, oh, elders sharing stories,
right.
sitting around a fire. But it's so much bigger than that.
It is.
So what exactly are we talking about? Like, help me out here. What is traditional knowledge?
Yeah, it's not just folklore or, old wives' tales. Think of it more like a living library that's built up over generations and generations.
I like that.
Of people who are just so connected to their environment.
Okay.
It's a blend of their knowledge, their practices, even beliefs, all reflecting a sophisticated understanding of nature.
Okay, so a living library. I like that.
Yeah.
But how is it proven? If it's so sophisticated, do they have labs?
Right.
Yeah. Experiments like in modern science.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really interesting, I think, because the concept of proof itself can be different.
Okay.
In a lot of cultures, the validation comes from observing generation after generation, trial and error, seeing what works.
So if it's helped them thrive?
Exactly. If a certain practice helped them, it got passed down.
Interesting.
It's a type of knowledge that's been tested by time.
Tested by time. Yeah, you could say, okay, I like that. Survival of the fittest knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
But if it's so valuable, why is it often overlooked or misunderstood?
Well, I think part of it is that it challenges the way we think about things, the dominant scientific frameworks we're used to. Plus, there's language barriers, limited access to information, even biases that keep us from really grasping all the nuances.
Yeah, and each tribe, each community, they all have their own unique version.
That's amazing.
That's incredible. So give me some examples.
Sure.
How does this knowledge vary between different cultures?
Well, imagine the Amazon rainforest.
Okay.
The indigenous communities there have their own ways of classifying plants and animals that are so different from how we do it in Western science, but they're so detailed.
Wow.
They're amazing.
Okay.
Or think about Polynesian navigators. They've been using star patterns and wave movements to voyage across these huge oceans without any modern instruments for centuries.
That is amazing. Talk about different ways of seeing the world.
It is.
Something that I thought was interesting in the material we were looking at was how traditional knowledge is both a legacy from the past, but also a tool to create new knowledge.
Right.
So how can it be both?
That is a great question. It's not static. It constantly adapts. As communities face new challenges and gain new insights. So it's like a river. It's constantly flowing, changing, but it's always connected to the source. Think about it. Traditional healers might combine their knowledge of plants, medicinal plants, with what they're finding out in modern science.
To create new treatments.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating.
It's a beautiful blend.
Okay, so we've established it's complex, diverse, evolving, but how is it actually being used today?
Right.
What are some concrete examples of traditional knowledge in action?
Well, let's take meteorology and climate, for example. A lot of traditional communities have such intricate ways of observing and predicting the weather, using science from nature, animal behavior, celestial events.
That's like their own?
It's like a hyper-local, nature-based weather app.
That's been fine-tuned
exactly.
for generations.
For generations.
I read about these sacred sites. Sitas Keramat Alami.
Yes.
What's so fascinating to me is how they represent a blend of traditional beliefs and environmental management.
It's amazing.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, think of them as places where nature and spirituality just come together. For many communities, forests, mountains, certain creeds, they hold deep meaning. spiritual significance, and that leads to a sense of responsibility to protect them.
Yeah.
And the rules and taboos that surround these places, they've been passed down for generations. And sometimes that unintentionally leads to these remarkably well-preserved ecosystems.
So it's not just protecting the species or the resource itself. It's
something deeper.
It's something much deeper, yeah.
It's a worldview.
Yeah.
For example, in Indonesia, you have the Kabuyutan in West Java.
Okay.
These forests are believed to be dwelling places of ancestral spirits.
Okay.
And they're strictly protected by local communities. And that's led to these incredibly biodiverse areas and serve as refuges for endangered species.
That's an amazing example of how spiritual beliefs can lead to conservation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Now, there's this phrase in the source that I was reading that kind of threw me off.
Okay.
Orion Luku. What is that about?
So it's a simple equation, but with a really profound message. Orion means location or place. And Luku means outcome or result. It emphasizes that context matters a lot.
Orion Luku. So, wait, do you break that down for me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Different locations and perspectives will lead to different implications for how traditional knowledge is applied. So you can't just take knowledge from one place and expect it to work perfectly in another.
Right.
You have to think about the unique cultural, ecological circumstances.
So location really shapes how knowledge is formed and applied.
Absolutely.
We've been talking on a very local scale.
Yeah.
But does this have a role to play on a global stage?
I think so, yes. Traditional knowledge can inform so many different fields.
Like what?
Well, in conservation, for example, understanding traditional land ownership, genetic resource rights, intellectual property.
Yeah.
All of those things are crucial for creating strategies that are both effective and equitable.
So it's about protecting the environment, but also the rights of the people.
And the knowledge of the people who've been stewards of this land for so long.
For generations, yeah. What about other fields? Agriculture?
Yeah, there's so much to learn from traditional farming. Well, traditional agriculture often emphasizes sustainability and working in harmony with nature. Practices like shifting cultivation, agroecology, agroforestry, traditional pest management. All of these things offer really valuable insights.
So it's like they figured out sustainability long before it was the trendy thing.
Exactly.
And then healthcare.
Traditional medicine. It's still meeting the needs of most of the population.
80%. Yeah.
It's incredible.
The world.
It's amazing.
That's amazing.
The World Health Organization estimates about 80% of the world's population relies on it.
So it sounds like traditional knowledge and modern science,
they can work together. They can complement each other.
Yeah, they're not enemies.
Exactly.
Are there examples of these two systems collaborating?
There are, for sure. There's a growing movement to bridge that gap. So scientists are increasingly recognizing the value of traditional ecological knowledge. Communities are incorporating scientific findings into their practices.
It's about working together.
Absolutely.
To get a more complete picture.
It can lead to a more holistic understanding of the complex issues we face.
Are there specific places where this is happening?
You bet. We're seeing more and more symposiums, conferences, journals, even books that are all dedicated to exploring this. These platforms allow for researchers, practitioners, community members to share what they know, to collaborate and advocate for this knowledge.
It's amazing to see that it's being recognized more.
It is.
But let's bring it back to Indonesia. Our focus today.
Sure.
The source highlights some really interesting examples.
It does.
Of how traditional knowledge is being preserved and used here.
Indonesia is so rich in traditional knowledge.
Give me some examples.
Take Tanah Ulen, for example. It's a traditional agroforestry system practiced by the Dayak Kenya in Kalimantan. They carefully manage these forest gardens that provide food, medicine, other resources while maintaining biodiversity.
Sustainable practices rooted in...
It's incredible.
Traditional knowledge.
Yes.
What else?
Well, there's SASI, a customary law system in Maluku and Papua that regulates resource use. They close off fishing grounds, forests, or other areas temporarily to allow for regeneration.
To let them come back.
Exactly. It shows such a deep understanding of resource management.
It's like they've been practicing sustainability for centuries.
It is.
The source also mentions Lubuk Larangan and Kabuyutan. What are those?
So lubuk larangan is a traditional practice in Sumatra
Okay.
where they designate certain sections of rivers as no fishing zones.
Okay.
And this protects fish breeding grounds and ensures there's fish for the long term.
Makes sense.
And Kabuyutan, as we discussed earlier, those are those sacred forests in West Java that are fiercely protected because of their spiritual significance.
So many different approaches.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
All reflecting a deep understanding of their environment.
And then there's the climatological theories and ethnobotany.
Yes.
Tell me about those.
So many communities in Indonesia have developed very complex climatological theories based on observations of natural phenomena.
Okay.
So they might use the flowering of certain plants or the behavior of animals to predict weather.
So they can adjust their practices.
Exactly.
Wow, like a nature-based weather forecasting system.
It's amazing.
It's been honed for years.
For generations.
And what about ethnobotany?
So ethnobotany is the relationship between people and plants.
Okay.
And Indonesia is just this treasure trove of ethnobotanical knowledge. Traditional communities here, they have this extensive understanding of the plants and their medicinal, culinary, even their practical uses.
And that's contributed to modern medicine and agriculture.
Yeah. It's incredible how much we can still learn.
There's one line in the source that really caught my eye.
Okay.
It says that we should be viewing myths not just as true or false.
Right.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, traditional stories, myths.
Okay.
They can offer really valuable ecological understanding if we can look beyond the literal meaning.
Okay.
So they may not be scientifically accurate in the modern sense, but they often contain these observations about nature, human behavior, and even the consequences of our actions.
It's like storytelling, but with a deeper environmental message.
Absolutely.
So what are some examples of this?
Well, the legend of Dayang Sumbi.
Okay.
In Sundanese folklore, that emphasizes respecting nature's boundaries.
Right.
The story of gambir consumption, well, that's actually led to some modern scientific discoveries about its medicinal properties.
Right.
And then traditional jamu practices, that's contributed to developing medicines we use today.
So myths can actually inspire scientific inquiry.
They can.
That's amazing. Ancient wisdom leading to modern breakthroughs.
Yeah.
So with all this potential, what steps can we take to further explore and utilize this traditional knowledge? What does the future hold for this?
Well, the source lays out some key areas for action.
Okay.
First of all, more research to really delve into these knowledge systems. We need better ways to identify and document these practices. And then libraries or databases to preserve this knowledge.
Make it accessible.
Exactly.
Right.
And then what? Well, and then we have to find ways to actually apply it in today's world, especially in areas like sustainable development, environmental management, healthcare, and then education is crucial. We need to be incorporating traditional knowledge into school curricula.
Oh, I love that.
It can foster respect for different ways of knowing.
Imagine kids learning about Sasi and Tana Ulan alongside their science lessons.
I think that would be amazing.
That'd be so cool.
Showing them that knowledge comes in so many different forms.
Yeah.
And we can learn so much.
From the past.
From the wisdom of the past. Exactly.
Speaking of learning, before we move on, quick reminder to our listeners that while we've been diving deep today, the scientificlocal.org website is still under construction.
It's coming.
It's coming. We know you're eager to explore, and it's going to be worth the wait. But in the meantime, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on traditional knowledge's potential to help us with the big challenges we're facing today?
It's a great question. I think it has huge potential.
Okay.
When you think about climate change, for example, traditional communities have been adapting to environmental changes forever.
Right.
They know about sustainable practices, they know about managing resources, and they understand their local ecosystems.
Right.
All of that could be incredibly valuable.
It's like they hold a key to resilience.
To resilience, to living in harmony with nature.
That's something to think about.
And it's not just about the practical solutions. Traditional knowledge offers different perspectives on our relationship with nature, with each other, with the planet.
Right.
It can help us understand what it means to live sustainably.
So it's not just about preserving the past.
No, it's about using the past.
It's about
to create a better future.
Creating a better future.
Exactly.
It's like having a compass that's been pointing us in the right direction.
It's a beautiful image.
For generations.
I love that.
Yeah. And on that note, I think it's time for us to take a little break.
Okay.
And then we'll be back with more about traditional knowledge.
A compass.
It really is pointing us towards, a more balanced way of life.
And it's not always about those big solutions,
Right.
It's about our everyday choices, how we interact with our surroundings.
Yeah, totally.
Even the stories we tell.
That makes me think, we've been talking about the potential of merging traditional knowledge with these modern approaches. But are there any downsides? Like clashes that come up?
There can be.
Okay.
One thing we have to be super careful about is making sure traditional knowledge is treated with respect.
Yeah.
Historically, it's been exploited,
right.
Used for profit without giving back.
Without acknowledging the communities it came from.
So it's not just about getting access to it.
Yeah.
It's about doing it the right way.
It's about ethics.
Yeah.
Responsibility.
Another hurdle, I imagine, is just the different ways that these two worlds validate information.
Yeah. Traditional knowledge systems, they often have this holistic, interconnected understanding.
Yeah.
While Western science is all about breaking things down.
Right.
Analyzing, proving through experiments.
It's like trying to translate.
Yeah. Between two totally different languages.
It is.
But they're both important.
They are.
There's got to be a way
to
find that.
Common ground.
Yeah, to talk to each other.
Absolutely. It takes open communication.
Okay.
Willingness to learn from each other.
Right.
Recognizing each system has strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, and maybe through that.
Exactly.
We can get an even better understanding.
We can unlock some amazing solutions.
Yeah. Imagine what we could do.
I know, right?
If we could combine that ancient wisdom with the technology we have today.
It's exciting to think about.
It really is. And it's not just about those practical solutions either, right?
No.
It's about changing how we see the world.
It is.
Appreciating how connected everything is.
Yes.
Recognizing all the different ways.
I love that.
That people have lived in harmony with nature for so long.
For millennia. It's amazing.
Speaking of which, I want to bring it back to scientificlocal.org.
Okay.
The platform behind this podcast.
Sure.
What sets them apart in how they're sharing and celebrating this traditional knowledge?
Well, I think scientificlocal.org has the potential to really change the game.
Okay.
They're building this space where knowledge holders, researchers, and just the public can connect in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And by focusing on Indonesia, they're tapping into this region with so much cultural and ecological diversity.
Right, where traditional knowledge is...
It's alive and well.
Yeah, thriving. So how do they plan to do all that?
Well, their upcoming website,
Yes.
It'll be the hub for information,
Okay.
resources, stories, all about traditional knowledge.
Cool.
They're going to have workshops, seminars, even field trips.
Wow.
So people can connect directly with knowledge holders.
And get those hands-on experiences.
Exactly. It's about getting people involved.
With a very dynamic approach.
It is.
I'm excited to see what they do.
Me too.
I think they have a real chance to inspire people.
I think so too.
Especially younger Indonesians.
Yes. To connect with and value
their heritage.
Their heritage, exactly.
And hopefully that'll ripple outwards.
To the whole world.
Yeah, to a more sustainable future.
Yeah, a more harmonious relationship with our planet.
That's the goal.
It is.
We've talked about how diverse traditional knowledge is.
Yeah.
But what are some things that connect it all?
That's a great question.
Like what universal insights can we gain from all this wisdom?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is understanding that we're all connected to the natural world.
Yeah.
Traditional knowledge systems always emphasize balance.
Okay.
Respect.
Yeah.
Reciprocity in our relationship with nature.
We're not separate from it.
We're part of it.
We are part of it.
And when we hurt nature, we hurt ourselves.
Exactly. What else?
Community.
Okay.
Collaboration. Traditional knowledge is passed down through families.
Right.
Communities. Yeah. It creates this sense of shared responsibility for the well-being of everyone and the environment.
So we're stronger when we work together.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
The power of observation.
Okay.
Adaptation. Traditional communities have been watching and adapting to their environments for centuries.
Right.
They understand the natural cycles, the processes.
Like nature's our biggest teacher.
It is.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
And adapt.
And we can learn so much.
Yeah. So by using this wisdom, we can learn from the past, but also create a better future.
I love that.
And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Sure.
Don't forget about the scientificlocal.org website.
Yes. It's coming soon.
Keep an eye out for the launch.
It's going to be great.
It is.
It's going to be an incredible resource.
Thank you to everyone for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We'll be back soon with the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back, everyone. We're diving right back in. And I got to say, I'm still thinking about that interconnectedness we were talking about. It's pretty amazing how these communities have lived so closely with nature for so long. You know, it makes me think, we talk about traditional knowledge like it's this far-off thing. But what if it's closer than we realize?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It really is all around us, even today.
Right. So it's not just about those faraway cultures. Maybe it's about looking at our own lives, our own communities, too.
It could be in your grandma's garden, or the remedies your family uses, even how your community celebrates holidays. It's all connected.
It's like we're rediscovering something valuable that's been there all along. But, you know, the world's changing so fast. Globalization, technology, everything's moving. Does traditional knowledge even have a place in all of this?
I think that's something a lot of people worry about. Because it is a challenge, keeping these traditions alive when everything around them is changing.
Right. Like, languages disappear, people move. It's easy to lose those connections.
Exactly. But it's not about locking things away in a museum. Traditional knowledge has always adapted, right? It's about making those connections for the next generation, even though their world is different.
Finding that balance, respecting the past, but also looking ahead.
That's it. And that's where I think groups like scientificlocal.org come in. They can build bridges, get people talking, sharing, coming up with new ideas. It keeps that knowledge alive.
It's like taking those old seeds, the wisdom from the past, and planting them in fresh soil.
I love that. It's a reminder that this isn't just about facts or old ways of doing things. It's something that can inspire us. It can help us figure out how to live in this modern world.
Well said. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm feeling hopeful. You know, traditional knowledge isn't just a history lesson. It's got this energy, this wisdom that can help us build a better future, right?
Absolutely. And don't forget that sense of wonder. Exploring these ways of knowing, seeing the world through different eyes is just amazing.
Yeah. It's a reminder that learning never stops. So, to everyone listening, stay curious. Explore what's around you. Think about the knowledge in your own families, your communities. You might be surprised what you find.
And don't forget to check out scientificlocal.org when the website launches.
It's going to be a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to keep learning. Until next time, keep exploring, keep those minds open, and let's all keep learning from each other.